The sales robots have taken over, and they're decimating deals left and right, destroying them right in their tracks. On the AI for Sales podcast, our mission is to empower everyday sellers to embrace AI superpowers to build new bridges and crush quota. Dr. Joel Abon said it best in the AI for Sales book. In sales, time kills deals. In AI for Sales, AI kills time. Join our hosts as we learn from the C-suite of the world's fastest growing companies about how you can leverage AI today to transform your sales revenue engine while being the best version of you.
Welcome back to another episode of the AI for Sales podcast. I'm Chad Burmeister. I am your host. Today I've got Jim Padilla with me. Jim, like myself, is a man of God, and he is the founder, CEO of Gain the Edge. They've been around for 10 years. They have more than 200 people that are doing sales for their customers. And we're going to double click today on how and what Jim is seeing in the world of AI for sales. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chad. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again. It's been a little while since my last trip to Florida. So hopefully we'll see you there live again one of these days. So I love to help our audience get to know who you are by rewinding the tape and kind of connecting the dots between how you got from there to here. You know, where'd you grow up? What was your thing when you were younger?
Well, going back to childhood, because it's all relevant here. I was born in the Bronx and, to teenage parents. My mom was 16, dad 17, and neither one of them had a clue what they were doing, of course. And my dad took off, as I guess any reasonable 17-year-old might do, as he got terrified. And my mom did the best she could with what she had. But I pretty much grew up in a very abusive environment. You know, my mom responded to a lot of fear with anger and rage, and she didn't know what to do. And I ended up in foster care at 13, on the streets at 16, and in jail by 19. And so I spent most of my life really learning how to win people over, because that was my only defense mechanism. I was in a lot of dangerous environments, and I spent my time reading people, studying people, understanding people, so that I could show up as an asset and an ally and not be a threat to anybody. And, little did I know that was going to make me millions of dollars down the road, teaching other people how to win the room, read the room, influence people in their direction, so that they could be seen as an ally and an asset instead of a threat. And then people want to buy from you, But it was a pretty interesting journey, and everything that I've done in my past has led up to being, a sales expert and a team builder and somebody who pours in. And as a kid, I did that mostly for probably wrong intentions. I did it for my own self-preservation, but then I, in the last 20 years, had to learn how to do that for the benefit of others.
I love it. So thank you for sharing the personal history, because a lot of times, how we get our childhood shapes who we are as a person. And a lot of people could take the minus side of the T-chart and live in the minus. And then, or you can choose to live on the plus side and say, you know what, really sucked when I was a kid, but it gave me the skills that I'm living in today. And that's my God-given talents and skills were shaped as a result of those times. So I have to believe that at the advent of AI, it's been around 25, 30 years. There was apparently an AI winter where it all was put on the shelf for a while. And then GPT-3, 3.5, 4, Chat GPT, now the world's changed and started to really embrace it. So thinking about what I heard you say at the beginning of this call is your ability to read the room, your ability to connect with people, form relationships. How do you see AI enabling you and your customers? And again, we're early into this, but are there early tells that might give you the ability and skills to do that even more effectively than you already have?
It's interesting because I see a lot of people on the surface level tapping into, Chat GPT as like it's the big player in town right now, right? But more from a superficial level, like how can I get it to write something for me or do something for? And quite honestly, most of the time, it's not even going to do it better than you. It's just going to do it faster than you. It's going to give you time and or get the ball started, and then you can enhance it. But what I've been starting to do is start seeing start being able to give, create personas and start creating an advisory board, setting the context and getting a lot of input and strategy, preparation. If I'm going to do an interview or meet with somebody, we got a lot of high level clients, got people doing great things in the world. And I want to know as much as I can about that person. So I know what matters to them so that I can show up in service to those things that matter to people. So really leveraging Chat GPT's reach to be able to enhance my ability to connect with people differently.
You mentioned something that made me go, let me learn more about that. The advisory board. Are you saying that you can have Chat GPT be your marketing advisor or your sales advisor, your strategy? Are you leaning on it for that level of insight?
I am, with the proviso, the caution. Treat it like you would any human. If you're working with a mentor and they give you input, do you just go, oh, great idea, let me go do it? Or do you question it, examine it, explore it, fine tune it and make sure that it does make sense? Because everything your mentor tells you isn't going to be great. Same thing here. Like an advisory board's job is to give you advice, not to make decisions for you. And so you got to take all of that input and examine it. I have one of the roles is my spiritual advisor. So when I'm doing a Bible study or I want to look up verses, sometimes it's just so much quicker. Why is this happening? Why did this happen in history? Why was that? Sometimes people get challenged with things like why all the violence? Why did you wipe out a whole nation when you could have just reprimanded them? I don't know. Let me ask ChatGPT what it understands about the historical context about that time and see what it can give me. And then it gives me that. And then I go, okay, let me verify it some of this elsewhere too. Right. I don't want to just go blindly. Hey, ChatGPT said this, so therefore. Right. Same thing with business. We're setting up personas as a business coach, right? As our spiritual advisor, as our content advisor, as our CMO, as an email growth strategist. Like, how many roles do you want in your company? And how many places can you go just to get an addition, even if sometimes it's just a second opinion? Here's what I think. What does ChatGPT think? You go, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Wow. That is such a unique, I have not heard that approach yet. Email growth, YouTube growth, digital. I mean, there's the opportunities are endless.
Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit because there's a lot of business problems that AI could solve, and you just exposed one of them. Is there something that you're most excited about? I've heard finding the right target market. What do you say to them? What's the right channel to use? But is there something at a 30,000 foot level that says, hey, this is a huge problem in sales that I've seen over the last 10 years, and I'm really excited now that AI is going to have the opportunity to try to solve it?
It's more about, to me, how do you enhance the human experience versus replace it? Or if it's going to be replaced, then what's the role it now can move the human into? I don't ever want it to just be, okay, we're going to replace you. Great. You're going to replace this. What's the next iteration that the human can be prepared for so that it can leverage the strength of AI in this area? Right. So if we're always looking at, to me, it's how do we cast the vision and how do we keep ChatGPT in the side of that vision? And one of the things that I've been taught to do, because it didn't come regular for me for some reason, is getting that input from ChatGPT. It's like, ask ChatGPT, how would I better leverage you given these circumstances? If you have this, is this on the path to replacing this? And if it is, how can I leverage your experience to partner with you? Right. And it'll tell you, because it's designed to give you responses. So ask those kind of questions and let it say, hey, guess what? how do I get this from you? How do I ask a better prompt?
Even the question we just asked that says, what's the biggest opportunity of the use of AI in sales? And you'd be amazed by the responses. Maybe we ought to. I think I'm gonna ask that question while we're talking here, and we'll see what it says. Right.
Totally. Now, obviously, as a fractional sales company and as somebody who spends our time building systems and teams for people, I'm all in for the human perspective, right? So I don't want humans replaced. I want humans enhanced. I want humans uplifted. And so I'm always on that. I will always and forever be on that side of the camp. And so it's always, how can we do this together?
Yeah. Well, so here's what Chat GPT said in a live context.
Okay.
I asked the question, what is the biggest opportunity for AI in sales, in the sales arena? Lead generation. Analyze the vast amounts of data to identify potential leads and prospects. So that's, if you think about, that's a database person
Yeah.
that, guess what? I guarantee that database person, you're still going to need a database person to be able to ask the questions. It just gives them a wider reach.
Right.
So probably not a lot of jobs affected on that one, just ability to do a better job at it.
Right.
Customer segmentation.
That's good.
Got it.
Yep.
Right. Pointed at your current customer base. Personalized recommendations. Analyze the data and give personalized product or service recommendations. Kind of, would you like fries with that? Or if you buy a book on Amazon, you should also buy this. Sales forecasting, sales process optimization, chatbots, and virtual assistants. So those are the 6 that AI knows about that recommends as the biggest opportunity areas. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, salespeople provide a transaction, but all of these other things are how do you enhance all the opportunities for increased results through those transactions, right? So it's interesting. I spent 15 years coaching high school basketball, and we were very good. We won, nationally ranked program. We won state, section titles, always in the hunt for state championships. And we were a prowess, a defensive juggernaut. We pressed and we strangled teams defensively, and we had great athletes, and we could run and gun with the best of them. The number one statistic that we found that would indicate everything that this was, we would win and lose with this: defensive touches. So if we could maintain 7 defensive touches per quarter, that would be 28 per game. We knew we were going to win, because that meant we were getting a deflection. It stops the momentum of the offense. It puts pressure on the passers. It shortens the arms of the passers, because now they're more reluctant to pass. It makes them take longer shots from farther back. There are a million things that are as a byproduct and result of that. And that meant we always had to be in position to be in the passing lanes, to be able to be basically diminishing their opportunities. It didn't mean we needed steals, and we didn't actually have to win the rebound game because they weren't getting as many shots.
Wow. My son and I saw that on the game that Miami beat Denver, the game 2. And my son's been playing a lot of basketball lately in college, not professional, just a team sport.
Right.
Actually broke his pinky on it the other day in a very bad way. But he noticed that in the game. We're sitting there watching it on the big screen, and he was like, "Do you see that? They're not getting the defensive touches," and they lost the game.
Yeah.
And so
everybody's got to know their own.
Monitoring the film, right? Is same thing when it comes to sales. What is your like we talked about in board of advisors before? What's the brick that you need to focus on?
Yeah, and for us, something that we've it's been a part of the equation, and in the recent year now we have shifted. This is our number one metric of significance: qualified booked appointments. So everything in your company, everything in your revenue generation plan for us has to lead to a qualified booked appointment. And if you are increasing your qualified booked appointments between 2 and 7% monthly, annually, you're on target. If it's faster than that, then you're usually going to have some things breaking, because you're going to lose leads, lose opportunities. You're going to be missed opportunities. It's going to cost you money. If it's growing less than that, then typically what's happening is your client acquisition cost is probably growing faster than your revenue increase as a percentage. Right. And so if we keep it between those numbers, that means there's a consistent, steady increase that can be managed and taken advantage of, but that there's constant growth in place.
Yeah. The VCs 2 years ago, or even 8 months ago, would have said, "Nope, Jim doesn't know what he's talking about." Now the VCs are saying, "Yep, that's exactly right," because growing profitably and steadily versus trying to break glass and do it all in one quarter is important in the world today. Tell me about AI. We talked about using it for strategy and spiritual advisor, business coach, CMO, email growth, all those neat things. What about on the prospecting side to grow those qualified sales opportunities at the 2 to 7% like you talked about? Are you using tools to help you do that for your customers?
Well, quite honestly, we're a little bit, we're a little slow to the game on that because we've been using it more for, like you said, the data side, the how are we enhancing from the back, like, how are we enhancing the sales team and the people itself. Now it's how are we putting strategy and quality bots in place that still deliver a humanized experience, something that the end user is going to feel is valuable. Because I'm one of those guys that when I pick up the phone, as soon as you have that little delay, that little pause, you're like, okay, great, I'm talking to an automation or whatever, and to me, it just makes me feel less valuable. Mm-hmm. And so I want to still feel like I'm being served. So even if you're delivering a bot, you have to remember the end user experience, and that person wants to feel special. They want to feel served. They want to feel heard. They want to feel like you get them, and they're willing to wait if you help understand that, this isn't just, oh, thank you for your patience and we appreciate you, while you're going to hold for 17 minutes. By definition,
so,
I mean,
so what I'm hearing you say is I've got a picture of Iron Man right outside this door, and you're leaning into, we're open to AI for the seller if it makes the seller better, but we're not planning to do a replacement strategy, because there's tools, you've met Vocodia,
yep,
that does fully automated conversations, and there's a time and place for that. If you're calling Southwest and their planes are grounded, would you rather talk to an AI or wait an hour and a half? No, I'd rather talk to an AI right now.
Right. And quite honestly, like with Vocodia, Brian and I are actually in conversations because there's still a place. They take care of a lot of the repetitive tasks, the things that can be handled simply, that have minimal amount of options, et cetera. But then at some point, there's an escalation process. And those people then need to be handed to a human, or they can sell the smaller item, but then now, where's the bigger ticket item? So it just puts you in a position to be able to manage your personnel more strategically.
I'm thinking in our world, imagine you've got a system that keeps your reps accountable to call, email, social, all the multi-channel touches that they do.
Right.
Imagine adding a touch that's maybe it's in funnel, to be honest with you. You've already created an opportunity. I've got about 4 companies I'm doing fractional CRO work for right now. And so my calendar is booked all the time. So it's very easy to let a plate drop on an opportunity. Why not set a rule that says if it goes more than 7 days, I want the chat bot with my voice to call, hey, this is the chat AI. I'm glad I reached you. Would you like to go ahead and schedule a time? I've got Chad's calendar right here. Press 1 for Tuesday at 10 or 2 for Tuesday at 11.
Yeah.
And then it automatically schedules the calendar. So I feel like, to your point, we'll start to add AI conversations to the equation where it makes sense.
Yeah. And I believe that honesty is the best policy with this, because is giving people a choice. You say, hey, look, like you said, this is, chatbot. This isn't Chad. This is Chadbot, right? Or you can name it like this is, Swinging Steve, right? Who's our bot? Whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But that way they know they're not talking to a human, so they don't feel disrespect like you're trying to fool them.
Yes, that's
right.
critical. So traditionally, you've been around for 10 years. You've had advisors, but now it sounds like you have more advisors because you've got this virtual advisor opportunity. What do you find is different now that you've got this, ask me anything solution on the back end? What's changed?
It's the timeliness is huge, because I can do this in the middle of the night. I can be up at midnight. Oh, I have a thought. Boom, 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 boom. For 20 minutes later, we've got a webinar script. Right. Where my mentor obviously is not available at midnight, nor would I expect him to be. And so it gives me that opportunity to move at the speed of inspiration, instead of, I got to put this on the agenda to talk on Tuesday when we have the conversation. Right. So I can move at the speed of inspiration, ask the question, get input, feedback, and then it can turn into a dialogue. And then I can be like, hey, this is cool. Now after I've had a chance to sleep on it, let me re-ask the question this way. And, it's just this ongoing dialogue that gives you the opportunity to just keep pulling layers. And that's just hugely valuable. And sometimes you just don't have that chance. When you're spending good money on a mentor, you don't want to go through the iterations of the small questions because you feel like you got to get the biggest bang for the buck. So you only ask the big questions. And sometimes the greatest adjustments come in the small questions.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your business because you serve a lot of customers. And so we have VPs of sales, CEOs that listen to this show. What would you say to them about, maybe they've had an internal team for a year or a decade, whatever it is, and they're starting to wonder, should I add a outsourced team on the sales side? What do you find, how do people get to you and when would they choose to make that decision? Or is it a brand new team in some cases? Hey, we don't want to hire an in-source sales team. Talk to us a little bit about how that process works.
What we find works most effectively is if you're at a place where you're already running an internal team and you're having any sort of effectiveness, my personal recommendation is keep that in place and just optimize. Because what actually is probably going on is you probably need to revise your sales process, fine tune your automation, doing the things better, and so that you have more support and a more predictable path for your sales team to follow. That's usually where they falter because salespeople are not magicians, despite what they like to think. And we all like to think we are. They're just simple humans. And most salespeople don't come packing with a system or a strategy. They're just really good at making sales. So your job is to provide the environment for success that they can predictably and consistently overachieve with. And that's the step we come in first. Like, I can give you a salesperson in a week, but he's probably going to ruin your business for a year. So we don't want that. We want you to be able to be supported. So we spend most of our time fine tuning the system, build the playbook, put in the automation, then putting in a salesperson. And so that tends to be our kind of services that we work with tend to be for somebody who's either starting a new initiative or a new company, because it could cost you millions to build all the right processes, strategies, and get it going versus hiring a company like us who already has all the systems, all the processes and the strategies to follow. Then you take it in-house long-term, and then we just become an advisor for you.
I love that. There's a company called Self-Publishing School, and I think they may have changed their name to shorter, Self-Publishing. Chandler Bolt's the CEO. I met him on a ski trip, and he talks about this topic where you've got to put it in the operating procedure. So yeah, to your point, you could go hire a COO and an operator, and you're going to try to fumble around and figure out what the sales process should be versus hiring a company that already has that built into its DNA, knows how to plug and play that into your organization. And then, by hiring a handful of salespeople this way, you get to get all that business value that you would have normally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to do in-house or by a third party. So pretty cool. And you've obviously got some powerful use of AI tools like we've been talking about today. Talk to us about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where will AI be in the sales process by then? What are some of your early thoughts on that?
Well, God willing, it never becomes humanized because to me, the most dangerous thing that can happen is if it gives the perspective to somebody that it cares when it actually doesn't. And then you're now manipulating relationships in ways that are so dangerous and so scary. So that is my biggest concern, is that people are working to make it actually feel something or portray that it feels something. And that's when you have something that, that's the whole reason AI is great for self-driving cars stuff, because it doesn't sleep, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get hungry, it doesn't need a break. As long as there's gas in the car or they'll be running, we're rolling. And sales be the same thing. It's like, okay, I can make you feel something, even though I don't feel it, but I can give you the impression that I do. And now all of a sudden we're moving people in some dangerous directions because they're making decisions based on like trust and stuff that is not actually in place. And I do believe that's part of where a lot of emphasis for people is trying to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, and you look at some of the ads on Facebook or TikTok, and depending on which channel or button you click, you get put into a thread of those kinds of videos, and they are built to change your impression and change your mind about things. And so if that makes its way into the sales process and says, hey, we know that your sales DNA is this way, or your buying patterns are a certain way, and now you map the non-real salesperson to that, yeah, you're right. It can get real scary real fast to cause people to do things.
Well, and we're already seeing, in social media and stuff, it's like there's a whole world that's just designed to give you more of what you think you want. Mm-hmm. And so you don't even actually know that you're seeing what's going on in the world. You just know what, Google and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter want you to think is going on in the world. Right. So that's the next level version of that. So I don't know where it's going to go. It does feel like right now it's taken on a momentum that I don't know can ever stop. And it's just a matter of how can we structure it well so that it is, if it's eliminating jobs, I'm for it. I mean, history, we didn't get, we're not driving wagons to work. We're driving cars to work. So definitely hallelujah for change and growth. I just want to make sure that more than anything, the people programming it and the people in charge of making the decisions on how it works are for the benefit of humans, not just the benefit of progress.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Jim, this has been a really fabulous conversation. I never know where we're going to go on this podcast, and you've certainly opened up my eyes, and I'm sure our listeners as well. If people want to reach you, Gain the Edge Now, is that the best place to go?
That's my website. I'll tell you what, go to my, I have my personal site, which is jimp360.com, JIMP360.com. You have all my websites there, all of our social medias, every place to connect with me. Get in there, hit the contact button, and shoot me a text message and let me know that you found me here on the podcast. And, I'd love to talk to you and see what you have going on and how can I help put our, multi-$100 million sales brain on your business and see what things we can explode for you.
I love it. Well, thanks everybody for joining another AI for Sales podcast. We've been talking to Jim Padilla, who is the founder and CEO of Gain the Edge. And I think you've been treated to a real treat today. So thank you, Jim, and God's peace.
Hey, you made it this far in your AI for Sales journey. Want to augment your sales growth? First, leave us a review and then visit www.scalex.ai to claim your free strategy session today.